Work-life balance is an old traditional concept that emerged in the 1970s and 80s when women were entering the workforce. Families were forced to figure out how to incorporate this new dual income reality. Women were working, earning money. This is great. This was a game. And there was still lots of work at home to do, including kids to look after. This was the sacrifice. So here we are, 40, 50 years later, still trying to figure out this work-life balance idea, still exhausted by having to do it all. And here's the clincher, that whether we get it done or not, we're still tired and we're pleasing nobody. So I need to say that I think chasing after work-life balance is completely futile as an idea. And it's a super traditional paradigm that oversimplifies our life, and it pits one dimension of our life against the rest of it. And no matter what, we never finish anything on our personal list or our work list. So no wonder we're burnt out. If we've not met before, my name is Susan. I'm a recovering success chaser and work-life balance chaser, a master coach and creator. And I'm here for ambitious, success-minded women who don't just want to have external success and accomplishment, but they also want to feel good on the inside and relaxed and calm and present inside their amazing lives. So they keep chasing, you guessed it, work-life balance. Today, I'm going to deconstruct that. We're going to look at 3 shifts we can make to enjoy a more dynamic, ease-filled approach that integrates the puzzle pieces of our lives. Because work is a part of it, not separate. And I want to show you how life can be meaningful, fulfilling, and not just one productivity game. So let's dive in. So the first shift that I want to offer you is this idea of moving from a really static model, how life should be, to something that's more dynamic and seasonal. So what does this mean? Traditional models say work and life are static, like 2 pieces, this piece. And essentially any change that comes in will disrupt that. So we're operating from a place of like, when I get this piece of my life in perfect order and this one organized, then I'm good, right? Pieces. So we're endlessly forcing ourselves into this rigid schedule. So everything can just happen like tickety boo, which is super stressful because we have to get this piece of our personal life all done and ready. And we have to clean for the cleaner because, of course, our lives are clean and organized. And then there's this other piece over here, which is super unforgiving because work, it's supposed to only be from 9 to 5, but we know that's not it. So anything that disrupts that schedule just throws everything off the rails. So all this striving in our personal life, our professional life, and the sense that we're always racing for this impact, like heaven forbid to get called at home or from work or vice versa. And we become like these on and off switches, on at work, off at home, and go back and forth inside these 2 rigid blocks of our life. What if we moved from something static, rigid, tight, contained to something that said, okay, life, work, being human means we're dynamic and we're ever changing, and that's normal. That is okay, that imbalance sometimes. So in this way, what we're doing instead is getting super clear on what matters to us. And when we have that clarity, then everything can just move around it. And it doesn't really matter if it works or not, because we know it's important to us. We hold on to that. And those essentials are things that we honor, and we allow ourselves to be flexible along the way. So this creates a lot more ease. We aren't folding on to these 2 arbitrary buckets. We can flow with shifts, and maybe we can find a little bit of grace and compassion for the realities of our modern day life, which is sometimes hectic. Yes, as things change, you might wonder, what does this look like in practice? It's this reality that if we have the things that matter to us and we know it's important, we use those as our stabilizing pieces. We have grounding practices. Like for me, I have to make sure I get my sleep and movement. Those are really good for me to anchor in. We have dinner time rituals. So we always do best part of the day. There's practices in my work too, where I know what happens on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday. And so things can move within that, but I still know what's important. So it's allowing our lives to take a shape because we know what matters to us. And we let ourselves be dynamic and ever changing. So then that brings me to shift number two, which takes us from this idea that segmented work and life and it's separate to something that's a little more integrated. So traditionally, the model is that work and life are separate and opposing forces like oil and water, almost like life is here, work is there. And if I'm at work, life can intrude and vice versa. So we're inside this little victim story. We're surviving it all. And it starts to get into one is meaningful and one is not, or one is good and one is bad and one is helpful, one is intrusive. And it's like they're at war. Like practically this can feel like guilt if we take our kids to the dentist during work hours or shame for working or even wanting to work or having to work on an evening. And again, this is so exhausting having to maintain this arbitrary segmented boundary. So we're always like holding our breath in, trying to contain one piece and hoping it doesn't spill over. So much, okay, work, here I am, I'll get this done. And then we can barely breathe. Then we have my work self and my home self. We have my Polish self and my yoga self. And I'm trying to keep my shit together here and my shit together here. So heaven forbid I don't like overflow. And oh my goodness. So how about instead, like I'm going to stress thinking about that. Work is a part of life and it's integrated like a puzzle piece. So here in this idea where I'm clear on what matters to me, what doesn't, I can engage in the relationships and experiences that align with me and I'm choosing them and they're intentional and I'm more of a creator. So I've chosen to work and I've chosen to do that for this many hours. And I'm also choosing to be a mom. I'm choosing to also be a neighbor and a community member. And all these pieces, they align and they connect with me. And so they fit. And it feels good. I created this life. So then I can prioritize competing demands unapologetically. And it's good to choose. And boundaries don't exist between work and life. Instead, they're between that which matters to me and what doesn't. So if this is really important to me, this dinner time, no tech at the table, put a boundary around that because that connection time is meaningful. So this can create some room for more harmony. Everything belongs. It all has its place. Can feel really intentional because we've designed our life. One isn't happening to the other. And instead of this holding our breath, we can start to lead into the inhale and exhale, and they can have this ebb and flow. And that's how I think we can design and move. It's not one or the other. It's the things that we choose. And maybe there'd be more room for authenticity because right now work takes a particular place in my life in a different way than it used to. And it might change over time. And my kids and all these pieces are ebbing and flowing, but they don't compete. They all matter for different reasons. And so that can be shift number two. The last shift that I want to share with you is this idea of measuring our lives from either a time base or a quality base. What do I mean by that? So in the traditional model, we're supposed to create balance, right? By separating things and then measuring like time here. So 40 or 50 hours at work and then my home life. And so we look at how we're spending our time. that is what we start to measure. And when we start to measure time, we start to ensure that we maximize the use of each hour here and maximize the use of each hour there because there's so much inside of these two buckets. So inherently, what that means is we're measuring our productivity and we're chasing our goals and we're madly achieving things on the list at work and at home. So we're always trying to extract out of this part of our life and extract out of this part of life. And it's super frustrating because we never finish it all. We're never done. And there's a sense of failure and shame for never having arrived at our destination because we never get it all done. And then we like compare, like, how does she do it? Like, or how did they do it? Or, and what's wrong with me? And why can't I get this all done? So we accomplish things and we just never feel this satisfaction or this completion. Even things like exercise is just one more thing to do on the personal list, right? Taking a break is something we would want to do at work, but we feel like, oh, I don't really deserve it. I still have so much to do. So even that kind of spaciousness inside our time feels decadent and sometimes we feel guilty. Contrast that to this idea that the new way is that we could look at time. Yes, that's useful, but we all only ever get the same amount. It's not like it's really a variable here. Um, but we also, maybe for more than time, we want to experience it. We want it to feel memorable. A client who finished off the year and she looked back and she couldn't remember anything. And so that's a real example of just being focused on getting the things done. And really had wanted to make sure that inside this layer, she was feeling joy. So this creates room for the journey, that all the places along the way matter too. It's not just the destination, the things we want to accomplish. And we can live and enjoy our lives now. And this encourages us to be more present. So we think like an hour of focused work versus several hours of distracted work. And we lean into that hour because we know what we want to accomplish and why it matters versus we're just moving through time. The fun part of this is that it can feel really connected, like to the people that we're with and the work that we're doing, and way more fulfilling because we're experiencing our life and our choices. We've chosen these things, and maybe, just maybe, we could feel sufficient and like we're doing enough. And it's just so much more than the adrenaline of the almighty check mark. Things like me taking my son to track practice actually is a bit of a memorable time because I want to be that mom for him now. He's going into grade 11, into grade 12, he's going to be gone. So I really want to be intentional at that time. So even that driving him there can be a moment to just like sink in, connect. And monthly date night, if you go and it can be really special because you're both really there and only there. So that's the shift in moving from like a time-based life to a quality-based life that's about the design of your life. So there you go, 3 big shifts. Let me just recap them because we've covered a lot. We've got a shift that has us moving from a static view to more of a dynamic view, embracing the fluid parts of life, embracing our own changes and evolution, embracing seasons and the ebb and flow, all while staying connected to what matters. Shift from moving from separated to integrated. So life is a harmonious pool. Work might be part of it, but work might also offer us other things like connection. And there just can be so many things inside that life. And then moving from a time-based to a quality-based life So you're prioritizing and you're reaching experiences over ticking the boxes. So I'm here to encourage you to maybe adopt a shift. And I'd love to know which one feels most resonant or interesting to you right now. You don't have to do them all. Just feel one that says, oh, yeah, I wish my life was a little bit more like that. And maybe just drop that in because when you do that, you're redefining success. You're redefining this chase for work life balance and you're reclaiming your own life and becoming the creator of it, not just surviving the work and life pieces. So, my friend, if you're curious about what your own journey of redefining success could look like and how the inside might possibly feel like the outside, then I encourage you to and remember success isn't just about balancing scales. It's about creating a life that's authentically yours. So here's the journey. Would love to be on it with you. Have a great day. See you next week.